Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
You don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Thursday, the 21st of May, year of our Lord, 2020. Welcome to a War Room Pandemic, live from Capitol Hill, the nation's capital. Another day where we get the jobs numbers. In normal times, particularly when you get a guy like Donald Trump, who's been the greatest jobs president ever, to have 2.4 million unemployed people applying for unemployment would be absolutely horrific. But this is kind of normal course of business. 2.4 million today, which is a little bit above guide. I think it was 2.438. It was a little bit above a guidance. And I think Jason, Jack, and Raheem, that gives us approximately 38, 39 million unemployed right now on the greatest jobs president since FDR. Remember, the president of the United States, his best saying out of this entire pandemic is nothing is inevitable. That means human action, human agency is going to turn this around. And today, we're on another victory tour today. We've got a lot of wins that's not just happening for the administration, but more importantly, happening for America. The President of the United States today is going to go to Michigan. This has not gotten enough coverage. And I know we get some running gunfights with some of the mainstream media, which I always think is healthy, because we're calling them out. And they're coming back and challenging us, which I think is great, because this is all about facts. This is all about real information. President of the United States is going to Michigan today on, I think, the most unreported story in this pandemic, and that is where the American industrial base is. We had yesterday Flow, which is a startup in Richmond, Virginia, started by Peter Navarro and the guys over at the White House to help bring back the supply chain, as Rosemary Gibson's been telling us, bring back the supply chain on generic drugs. Today, though, we have Industrial America. We have Ford Motor Company. Without using the Defense Production Act, that's one aspect where you actually tell guys from the Korean War, hey, you need to make this, you need to shift your production lines. This isn't a partnership. And remember, we had the huge crisis on the ventilators. As we talked about early in the show, the gating event in a lot of these ICU units was going to be the ventilators and the ventilator technicians. That was a crisis 60 days ago. Today, President Trump is going up with Navarro and the rest of the team at the White House. They're going up to Michigan to a Ford Motor plant that has turned over in 6 weeks a production line to be a ventilator manufacturer assembly. And now what they're telling me is we're going to be a net exporter. The United States is now going to start exporting ventilators. This is American industrial base coming back. It's Michigan. It's jobs. This is the wheelhouse of the president. We're not, he's not up there talking with Tony Fauci with the mask on. He's up there. We're going to get to CDC in a minute, but he's up there in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, and I'd also point out that it's not just this one particular Ford plant or even the GM plant in Indiana, and I believe that's in Kokomo, where they're doing the 3D printing on some of these devices. But there are a whole host of companies all around the country who are running to the sound of the gun. So when President Trump went out there and said, I need everyone to get out there and start making ventilators. I want people to get out there and start making masks. I want companies to get out there and let's bring back the supply chains. Let's bring back the pharmaceuticals to places like Richmond, Virginia. We're going to talk about this in the coming weeks, but Mike Allen did that good deep dive in Axios. I believe it was Monday morning where he talked about what the actual economic opportunities are going to be going forward. I mean, as we start going through this, cities are changing. People are moving to different places, the distance learning, the distance jobs. But here's an example where President Trump, again, it's one of these, I always like to use the term moonshot with President Trump because that's what he does. He kind of points out in the outfield, he calls it and says, we're going to go here. Let's let's go and do this. And people start doing it. Now, sometimes they need a little left tap, the Defense Production Act or Stafford Act, go and get things moving in the right direction. But look, to turn this around from where the entire country is going to collapse, as you would believe if you're watching CNN and MSDNC every day, to now we're a net exporter, that's remarkable.
Remarkable.
One thing that's interesting, I think we should look at here when we talk about the Defense Production Act, just on a technical basis, the president did not have to use that with Ford Motor Company. Ford Motor Company jumped on this right away. Great American company. I'm not sure what the issue was with GM, but they did use it there. And, this is, Steve, this is proof that America can bring back our production to this country if we want to. This is everything from Tonka trucks all the way up to ventilators.
The colonel that wrote this book said in a South China Morning Post 2 days ago, he's now a major general, right? So he got promoted for laying out the battle plan of how they're going to destroy us. He talked about this very specific thing. America has the research. They have the innovation. What they don't have right now is the their strategic. And he says, we've got it and we got to choke them down right now. I mean, he was very obvious that our sovereignty, that the CCP's sovereignty rests upon choking down the United States right now. What you see here, and the difference between GM and Ford, is that Ford jumped on it, right, and said, hey, we ride to the sound of the guns. We'll figure this out. The French have that saying, engage first and then figure it out. They engaged. They figured it out pretty quickly. We have a production line today. The president's going to walk around a plant and actually see finished product. Now, are all the component pieces made in the United States? The answer is no. In fact, the general actually talked about this Ford plant that, hey, still the component pieces we make, and that's where we can choke them down. That's the next element. As Toledo's the under the hood for Detroit, you've got to bring in, you've got to get the component pieces. Ford ran to the sound of the guns. You've got this line up. GM, what I liked about what Trump and the guys did, what GM hesitated, and they pulled the Defense Production Act. That's where the Kokomo thing, I think, is rolling. But this is important because I think we're in the center of a storm, right? In the eye of the storm. It's relatively calm, but you see that there are dark clouds ahead. The dark clouds you can go through the dark clouds with action, action, action. American innovation, American ingenuity, American grit, all of that you see in this, be seen the flow situation in Richmond, which is a startup with a couple of companies coming in, and in Michigan today with Ford, which is an established part of the industrial base of the country. Both of them want to go to work, and people want to go to work. And this is why to me, it's now jobs, American jobs for American workers.
And also, let's remember, we have this great USMCA deal with Canada and Mexico. Not every single thing needs to be stuck in the lower 48. I mean, we have great partners, north and south, who have the same interests that we have. Already a great percentage of our PPEs are being made in Mexico. They're the second largest producer. So these are close allies, and allies that we're not ever in conflict in, which was a wonderful thing that we talked about last week with China and its neighbors.
This is part of talk about economic nationalism and not being isolationist. Remember, in Trump's trade strategy, which he never gets credit for, the component pieces were the Korean deal, the Japanese deal, and particularly the new NAFTA 2 or USMCA. It was to make Canada, Mexico, and the United States a geostrategic manufacturing alternative to East Asia. That gets laid in place, and then you can go. That's why Lighthizer then pivoted and really negotiated the great Lighthizer-Trump deal that got turned down after 18 months. They were dual tracking this stuff the other time. Nobody's ever redone the trade package in a consistent economic whole as a strategic element of America's economic policy, like Trump and Lighthizer and Navarro thought through in those huge fights in the first days of the first 2 years of the administration. It's all coming out. The politics of it, this is why Joe Biden's going to be in his back foot. He's Mr. Globalist. He can call himself into, and nobody brings this up. I was talking to somebody the other day. He was born in Scranton, but he's from Delaware. Wilmington is the mail drop for the global. That's all the global corporations are in Delaware. Why? They get better legal treatment, better tax treatment. He is the senator from the center of the globalist, which is Wilmington, Delaware. And that's what you're going to see here. But leaving the politics aside, just for pulling the country together. That's why I don't think you need rallies. What you need to be is at a plant every other day. You need to be there. Your rallies are the workers. That's the rally base. Today, I think you're going to see, and look, they've got the whole controversies of mask, unmask, the media, and this is about the media. They want to bring up the smallest element and make it the biggest deal. Nobody's sitting there. CNN and MSNBC, nobody has talked about we're a net exporter. We're going to help save the world the next time with our ventilators, which 2 months ago was the biggest meltdown anybody had. Now, with American ingenuity and American labor, we're going to become a net exporter of this.
Interesting write-up that I saw the other day. It was talking about why we haven't seen the explosion in, say, sub-Saharan Africa and some of these places that you would have assumed, like, okay, these are third world countries. They don't have access to health care. This is where it's going to blow up. It's because of their lack of transport. And so as this moves ahead and as people do start moving around within the country and going into the cities and things like that, we are going to see spikes in these third world countries. It's taking a longer time because it's not as though they're just flying from one city to the other.
We're not here to entertain you. We're here to have a real war room and have a partners discussion every day about really what's going on. Remember, it's a pandemic, triggered an economic crisis, triggered a financial crisis, geopolitics. But the running gunfights with the mainstream media is important. We'll hold CDC. We got David Rivkin, and we've got the exclusive with Rivkin, his new op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. Incredibly important for you. If you're an entrepreneur or a citizen, David Rivkin, as you remember from War Room Impeachment, one of the most brilliant brains out there constitutionally.
Not a bad co-author on that, right?
Not a bad Michael Luddick, who I think should have been on the Supreme Court. This is a Kavanaugh, Gorsuch type intellectual. I mean, these are two heavy hitters, top page of the Wall Street Journal. We get the first interview with him. Rivkin's going to come here and talk about essentially how the insurance companies, which is really the big fight here in Washington right now, how are you actually going to open these stores without you, the small entrepreneur, being sued personally and having your house taken, right? So this is the key point. But I want to get back to one of our favorite shows, Morning Joe. Has Morning Joe come up with his passport yet? We want to see if Morning Joe has ever been anywhere outside of South Padre Island. But you're into it now with the Morning Joe co-host.
The co-host, Karen Brzezinski.
It's Karen Brzezinski.
It's Karen Brzezinski now, and it will always be Karen Brzezinski from now on. Karen
bleeding all over the floor down in Mar-a-Lago.
Karen Mika Brzezinski, which I wonder, Jason, if you have the clip from her from yesterday. I sent it to you. It should be in your text messages. What's
the fight about?
So she goes on television yesterday, and during we're all live, and I'm not paying attention to it. I come off the show and I see that she's gone on a rant, saying that the president should not be allowed to tweet the things he tweets, saying that the Twitter should take action against the president, remove his tweets. That
Jack Dorsey should take down Donald Trump's Twitter account.
Exactly.
To censor
the president of the United States. So I tweeted back at her and said, I think it's a disgrace that a so-called journalist or reporter or whatever she wants to call herself, commentator, is behind limiting somebody's freedom of expression. And I concluded it by saying, look, even when people are wrong, they deserve the freedom of speech. I said I may have known that needling her would actually get her to respond, and I said this is some Stasi level stuff going on here.
Stasi being the KGB of East Germany. It was the KGB of East Germany. Stasi, who would come in like the CCP, would be into your life, know what your letters said, know what your telephone calls said, just be in your grill nonstop.
Read everything, censor what they don't like, make sure things aren't delivered. Which is effectively what she's doing. She wants the president's message not delivered to the American public. I knew that would get a rise out of her, or at least 90% likelihood. And she responded with a video clip, bizarrely, of a lot of conservative news anchors back in January talking about, maybe coronavirus isn't the most serious thing, and maybe it's just like the flu and whatever, which I didn't get, because in January I was sitting here talking about how serious the coronavirus was.
But what was her point about attaching that? What was she trying to do?
I think her point was just, this is why conservatives should be censored. because people have said things that are wrong or incorrect or wrong think.
I'm going to drill down on this because it's important because they want to control what the information is. Even their information was just as bad in those months. Those guys were, remember de Blasio, Cuomo? It's one of the reasons that thing came out yesterday about the lockdown.
It's not worse, but if you go to my Twitter feed right now, at Raheem Kassam, 8,000 retweets on my response to her, all of the time she's fawned over the president.
Okay, we're going to David Rivkin next about your liability in a moment on War Room Pandemic.
Everyone loves the benefits of compression socks, but they're just so hard to get on. Until now, introducing the all-new Copperfit Energy Socks, redesigned for the first ever easy on, easy off fit to help reduce swelling, relieve tired, achy muscles, and provide energizing support. A new blend of stretch fabric for the most comfortable, easy on, easy off compression fit.
Being a SWAT commander, we train to win. The Copperfit Energy Socks, they didn't feel like other compression socks. They totally exceeded my expectations.
Our most powerful copper-infused fabric, woven into our easy-on, easy-off compression sock to help reduce swelling discomfort from prolonged sitting or standing.
I'm 38 and a half weeks pregnant. Copperfit Energy Socks worked beautifully.
Extra support around the arch and ankles for increased support and relief of muscle aches and pains.
I'm so excited about these socks. I'm so much more energized to go do things after a day of work. They just slip right on, yet they still have that same compression that you want.
A soft cushion footbed for all-day comfort.
I'm on my feet at least 9 to 10 hours a day. These were fantastic. A lot of compression socks are a little too thin, especially for what I do. With Copperfit, I could wear these every day.
Feel more energized. Feel more active. Just feel better.
They just hug your leg. It relieves all the pressure that you have. I have so much energy, I can go, hey, you want to dance?
The first ever easy on, easy off compression sock. The most comfortable compression sock you will ever wear. Get your Copperfit Energy Socks now online at GetEnergySocks.com for only $19.99 or call 1-800-978-1224. Order right now and we'll include a second pair of compression socks free.
I've never felt anything like it before.
No more pain, no more swelling, no more achy, tired feet.
I can never go back to regular compression socks again.
Don't settle for ordinary. Ask for the original by name, Copperfit Energy Socks.
Hi, Linda. Looks like you've got a prescription to fill. Any idea how much that's going to cost in there? The exact same drug that's $10 at this pharmacy is $150 at this one. GoodRx finds prices and discount coupons on every prescription. Just input the drug name and instantly find savings at virtually every pharmacy in America.
Next. What can I do for you? Here's my prescription, and I have a coupon from GoodRx. Nice price.
Stop paying too much for your prescriptions with GoodRx.
My son needs this drug. I hope it doesn't cost too much. I hope my insurance pays for it.
Can you tell me how much this will be?
67. Sorry.
Wait, have you heard about GoodRx? GoodRx finds free coupons to help you save up to 80% on your prescriptions.
Wow. I had no idea.
GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
We're ubiquitous throughout the world. Over 100 million views now. Over 8 million on the podcast. The show is on fire, and that's because of you, the audience. Whether you're on a trading desk at a hedge fund, a news producer sitting in some cubicle, or the deplorables out there throughout the country. And today, in this moment, we want to. This is about the deplorables and the entrepreneurs. The lead opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal today by Michael Luddick and David Rivkin. David Rivkin being, as you know from the show, from War Room Impeachment, being one of the top constitutional lawyers in the city. Also senior partner at Baker Hostetler, used to be in the White House counsel's office back in the Reagan and Bush administration. This article is Lawsuits Needn't Block Recovery. Congress has the power to limit COVID liability while regulators develop rules to control contagion. In a fantastic cartoon, the cartoon shows the sharks of the strike lawyers, right? The trial lawyers, and you're the entrepreneurs going across, trying to get across that bridge to the other side using the law. And this is the key that picks the lock for opening America? Because as you know, every business owner out there, every entrepreneur has to figure out how they can handle liability. A very close friend of mine owns an organization that was on fire in the sports area. And yesterday found that they couldn't get liability insurance for what they were trying to do. And so they're essentially looking like they're going to either delay their season or maybe have some sort of truncated season because of liability insurance. David Rivkin, thank you very much for joining us today. So walk us through this article. This is, we think, one of the single most important. People don't talk about it, but this is really the key that picks the lock for opening back up America and opening up American business, particularly entrepreneurs. So walk us through what you and Michael are arguing.
Well, thank you, and good to be with you. This is a real problem. As you just mentioned, it's impossible to get insurance. The scope of liability is potentially staggering. Okay, this is something that not just can, but certain to impede economic recovery. We haven't opened up our economy yet, but hundreds of lawsuits have already been filed by trial lawyers. In my book, not the best members of my profession, but God bless them. And more to come. Those lawsuits are most likely going to be frivolous, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to have very negative impacts. Difficult to defend yourself against them. We have very capacious state tort laws, particularly in a number of states. Very little is understood definitively about COVID transmission. How do you basically you bring class action suits against various businesses. How do you defend yourself? How do you prove to the jury that, your customers or your employees did not get COVID from you, but got it from somewhere else? Very, very difficult. Unfortunately, it's got mired up in partisan warfare. Democrats, of course, hate to sound partisan, but that's the fact, are in bed with the plaintiff lawyers, hate providing any kind of limitations on legal liabilities. Plaintiff lawyers contribute lots of money to the Democrats. So the Democrats are resisting that. It's not in the House bill. This, I should say, benefit of your listeners, this is a big issue in the context of the next round of federal largesse flowing out. The $3 trillion bill that was passed by the House, the Senate is seized of the same issue now. It's very important to the Leader McConnell.
But hold on, I'm going to put this in context for people. When we talk about this fourth phase, the fourth phase of the bridge to the other side of this chasm, when we talk about economics going to the small business owner, when we talk about cash going to people's hands to take care of this demand destruction, what Secretary Mnuchin's working on, the centerpiece and the thing that's going to be the most hotly debated is this aspect of what happens in regulatory issues regarding liability insurance, correct?
That is correct. And as I said, this pits Republicans against Democrats. Now, Leader McConnell is very much seized of this issue. He's proposed essentially changing the liability standard from ordinary negligence to gross negligence. Our view, tremendous respect to Leader McConnell, is that doesn't work particularly well, in large part because there is no standards in place. I mean, the kind of stuff that's put out by CDC, God bless them, is not very practical, not very pragmatic, not taking into account the normal regulatory factors like technical feasibility and legal costs. So changing the standard from negligence to gross negligence in a current situation before you have detailed regulatory guidance would not work. We're proposing is an absolute immunity for a limited time period, say 6 to 8 months, for everybody, for all businesses. We do not think that would lead businesses to act recklessly, because I frankly think American businesses have great compliance culture and do not need to be threatened with lawsuits to do the best for their customers and employees. But the idea is absolute immunity for 6 to 8 months. Then each industry proposes its own template to OSHA, describing what are the safe practices for running their businesses. OSHA puts it out for comment. quickly massages it. It gets approved. And those standards would provide absolute immunity, not only for 6 to 8 months, but forever for businesses that follow them. This, by the way, is the same approach that was followed in the beginning of a Great Depression. Not to suggest, God willing, that we're going to be in those waters, but that's how things work. You had industries come up with there. Because, look, if you just rely on the regulators doing it from scratch, it's going to take years.
Okay, exactly. So let me just jump in here to make sure we got entrepreneurs, we have trading desks, we got news producers, and the deplorables, all this and this. Your proposal is that in this next phase of the phase 4 of the bridging mechanism, the financials would have a part in here that would give absolute immunity, whether you're a flower store owner or a yoga shop or Ford Motor Company or one of the retail stores, right? Major retail outlets, 7-Eleven or Walmart. You would have, as the proprietor in the business, absolute immunity for anything related to the transmission of COVID that a person would get in your store, or if the lawyer said, "Hey, you got it from your food, you got it from your counter." Oops, CDC just changed it. I can't get it from a counter. But
very important clarification.
In other words, the business, whether it's a flower shop, a yoga studio, Delta Airline, or Walmart, absolute immunity for 6 to 8 months.
Very important clarification. Absolute immunity from tort liability, which is to say, tort lawsuits brought under state statutory or common law. No immunity, which is important to underscore because that provides additional safety factors. No immunity from government, state, municipal, or federal going after you. So if you truly have some bad apples out there, you can have them fined, you can have them shut down by the local health inspectors, by state attorneys general, only from essentially unbridled specter of tort lawsuits brought by plaintiff lawyers.
Let me just throw this out there. This will be one of the biggest fights we see in Washington, D.C. This gets to the heart of so many issues. Do you actually think that this can go into – you are two of the smartest guys. Look, your co-author, I think many conservatives don't understand why he's not on the Supreme Court. He's considered, I think, in his generation, like Kavanaugh and Gorsuch are in their generation, one of the greatest legal minds. So this is – the Wall Street Journal's put this up as its lead because you two guys are two of the heaviest guys out there. What you're saying is pretty radical, right? But I guess the point you're making in the article, if you don't do this, business just ain't going to open because you've already got thousands of lawsuits already. And the little shop, from the little shop owner to Walmart, their legal department or their lawyers are going to say, you can't do it, right? Is that we're kind of in hang fire until this gets rectified?
That is correct. And the thing that breaks my heart, I mean, think about the absurdity. This contagion, this pandemic, is largely attributable to the Chinese. We cannot really, there have been some lawsuits brought against Beijing, but they're not going to get anywhere unless Congress changes foreign sovereign immunity statute because of sovereign immunity. So we're going to have hundreds of billions of dollars worth of liability imposed on the back of American businesses, further depressing the economy and hurting employment. And we cannot do anything vis-a-vis the Chinese. I mean, there's nothing to do with our constitutional arguments. But it's talking about insanity as to whether it's pragmatically possible. Look, we hope so. The whole idea that Mike and I put out there is designed, frankly, to appeal to some reasonable Democrats, hopefully. Why? We're not proposing changing forever the liability standards to go to gross negligence, something like this. They're basically saying, look, give it a 6-8-month period of temporary immunity for everybody. Let's develop standards that would be efficacious, that would be protective from a safety perspective, make regulatory sense, make economic sense. What's not to like? I mean, this is not a forever immunity for everybody. This is the right way to proceed. Call me naive, but I do hope it goes.
Can we ask you to stay over? I got a couple of questions. I know Jason's got one, Jack's got a couple, and because this is so important, the way you're laying it out as the underpinning of the business and financial reopening. So, David, can we ask you to stay over, be like 2 minutes, sure, some commercials, and we're going to come right back to you?
Sure.
Everybody's got more questions to ask. Okay, David Rivkin from Baker Hostetler, remember, he was our guidepost. He wrote all the great articles really defining the kind of why the impeachment thing was never going to get traction against President Trump. He's one of the most brilliant minds in Washington, D.C., and one of the most brilliant constitutional thinkers. He's also got some very deep thoughts about sovereign immunity in China. This is a mess, and nothing is inevitable. Human action, human agency. David Rivkin will be back in a moment on War Room Pandemic.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 15 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota.
I really like the fact that it was made in the USA. I think that USA products are a better quality product. I've tried a lot of other pillows, and nothing's worked like MyPillow.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress toppers, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
I used to think that sheets were just sheets. I got the Giza Dream sheets. They are the most comfortable sheets I've ever had.
The Go Anywhere pillow is so easy to just roll up and take anywhere I want to go.
Go Anywhere pillow is really comfortable, so that's what I really like. It's nice and supportive, and it's nice and small.
The MyPillow topper, for the first time, has enabled me to have a cool night's sleep. I'm able to go to bed and just get rest.
That's 3 inches of wonderful that's in the MyPillow mattress topper. It's just like a firm cloud.
MyPillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but so much more. For example, you get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
From roof to foundation, the damage to your home can be devastating, from clogged gutters, leaking roofs, rotting wood and fascia, and flooded basements. Protect your entire home with Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system. Once our ladders go up, you can put yours down forever.
One of the things that I like the most is that I don't have to get back on the ladder anymore.
Leaf Filter starts by cleaning, sealing, and realigning your gutters. We then install our micro mesh screen over your existing gutters, which is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water.
Trying other products is what made us finally go to Leaf Filter.
And Leaf Filter's lifetime transferable warranty makes it an extraordinary value.
Leaf Filter is going to make my home more valuable, especially when I go to sell it.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Call or log on today and save 15%.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
The John Fredericks Radio Network is our co-producing partner. We're on that network. Also, FM 99.1, 103.9 in Chicago. America's Voice, the streaming platform of the Trump Revolution. You can get all the rallies, you get all the press conferences, you get everything in the Rose Garden, nonstop with a great team at AVN out in Colorado. That's now Dish Channel 219. And, of course, Chris Ruddy and the great team at Newsmax, now in 70 million homes. Ruddy's killing it. Later in the day, translate into Mandarin on G News, G Media, GTV, all of it. So the Chinese Communist Party doesn't have to take the time to translate this. They get it right in their grill every day. David Rivkin, by the way, is going to be a heat-seeking missile on Beijing. Trust me, this guy is a beast. And today he's going through, remember, we're not here to entertain you. We're here to enlighten you. And this is going to be a battle royale on Capitol Hill about how you think through. I just had a guy last night, one of the best entrepreneurs I know, has started up something fantastic. He has tried to work out these issues on liability insurance for 3 weeks. He finally threw in the towel and said, I can't do it. I can't pull it off. It's going to be too expensive. Bang. Out. David Rivkin and Michael Ludwig, two of the most brilliant legal minds in the country, have kind of come up with a compromise about how to do this. You got to go to the Wall Street Journal, and I hope the Wall Street Journal Online's got this fabulous cartoon, because the cartoon explains it all. And the Wall Street Journal not often puts cartoons onto art drawings onto the editorial page. This is the lead op-ed piece. David Rivkin now joins. I know the team's got a bunch of questions. Is this now going to be part? Are you offering this up for the Republicans to think about this temporary immunity and actually put it into a bill so it can become part of the legislation so we can get this fourth phase passed and get people back to work?
Indeed, respectfully. As I said, this is meant, I like the way you put it, this is meant to be a compromise. It's a reasonable compromise, and my hope is that it would work. There's really no alternative not to do something reasonable about this immunity.
David, this is Jack Maxey. I just have a question. If we look back in history, and recent history, 1968-69, Hong Kong flu, global pandemic, killed, I think, 112,000 Americans, which would be, on a comparative basis, significantly higher than what we've lost in this pandemic so far. What were the legal issues back then? Because it was very similar, respiratory virus, seemed to attack people over 65, very similar in terms of the death metrics. What occurred back in that day? Because we did shut some schools on a local basis, never any national program.
Well, I wish we had an hour to discuss how the world has changed, but I personally think that most of our shutdowns are utterly irrational, and I plan to write about it in not too distant future. I think all of our shutdown orders in every state are essentially unconstitutional because they are irrational, and even in the context of economic regulation, the government, not subject to enhanced standard, it's not based upon race or gender or some inherently suspect classification, but it has to satisfy basic rationality test, and I think it's irrational. But that's not for today, number one. Number two, in the past, we did not have this insidious tort liability system that enriches plaintiff lawyers and pauperizes businesses of all size. We do have it now, so you did not have the juxtaposition, talking about a perfect storm, but juxtaposition of the COVID-19 with poorly understood transmission and safety measures, and the tort liability scheme that essentially allows people to write a complaint based upon most generic allegations and throw it out there, and then subject businesses to litigation, which I know full well representing businesses for months and years to come, and resulting eventually, unless you succeed in what we call in the litigation business motion practice, going before the jury where emotions reign, and again, people do get sick and people can die, obviously, and have died from COVID. And, you do not want to be litigating this before a jury in a situation where it is not crystal clear what your obligations are as a given business. And obligations obviously differ if you're a meatpacking plant versus a flour shop, which is a computer chip manufacturing facility, because they all have different work environments. So this would be, to use a big word, a tsunami of litigation. That would be just absolutely devastating, and would hit the economy
100%.
Very hard, and would not do anybody any good except for a bunch of plaintiff lawyers who can, get another home or another yacht or another plane for themselves.
David, by the way, I do love the fact when you say I could go on for an hour about this. The number of times I've heard that from a lawyer over the past 2.5 years is nothing short of remarkable. But I want to go to an important point here, because we talked yesterday on the show about some of the polling that's out there. It's a little bit of the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus thing, where Republicans are 80-20, essentially supporting small businesses and thinking that you shouldn't have the ambulance chasing out there. Democrats are the other way around, where only 20% support business and 80% love the ambulance chasing. Knowing that we have these irreconcilable differences, what play could President Trump possibly have to do any of this by executive action? Or what could he do that we could possibly, whether it's some kind of regulation, some kind of rule interpretation, where he could do this on his own? Because, look, I don't know what the ability is going to be of Republicans to get this done. Not from a lack of will, but just how tough it is. What could President Trump do on his own?
Unfortunately, I mean, Mike and I pondered this at great length, and we both believe in robust Article 2, robust executive powers, to put it this way. Unfortunately, other than the bully pulpit, there's nothing that the president can do. We do have both state statutes and state common law, including some in red states. In Texas, for example, is a haven for plaintiff lawyers, and don't ask me why. Louisiana is another example.
Texas trial lawyers.
There's no way a president on his own can somehow establish liability toward causes of action. And even the regulatory statutes that are in place now, OSHA can certainly develop safety guidelines. My hope is they will, again, with the industry proposing at the front end how they believe they should be regulated. But I want to underscore that those guidelines would have to be, and this would require new statutory language, would have to provide an absolute immunity if they're followed. Without it, and I hate to be pessimistic, so OSHA, let's say this idea does not go. OSHA does develop 6, 8, 10 months from now, let's say, the safety operating procedures, let's say, for meatpacking plants or flower shops. They still get sued, and then you argue as a lawyer defending them that their compliance with those safety procedures indicates that they were not negligent, and the lawsuit should be dismissed. And some lawsuits would be dismissed, and some would not, because the plaintiff lawyers would argue that it's not good enough, they should have done more and could have done more, and put some expert, in a tweed jacket and glasses saying, well, as far as I'm concerned, instead of, doing this according to OSHA guidelines, they should have done this plus that. So
David,
requiring new statutes.
Yeah. David, we got to bounce. We're going to put it up there as a link. But I got to tell you, sir, as sure as the turning of the earth, you're going to get chopped up tonight. Watch Rachel Maddow. Watch Lawrence O'Donnell. It's coming. Watch Brian Williams. MSNBC. I don't know. CNN is a little too deep for them. MSNBC is going to get. They're going to line up, one after the other on each show to be coming after the heartless, cold David Rivkin and Michael Luddick on the Wall Street Journal. Sir, thank you very much. Great honor to have you on. Great friend of the show and one of the most brilliant guys out there. So thank you.
Pleasure as always. Bye-bye.
I want to connect dots here. This is why we do this. This is why the team works 24 hours a day. Let's go back in time. Why is Jason Miller talking about the CDC guidance that they've given, the 19-page within the deeper one? You said yesterday. That is what they're talking about, right? It's the CDC guidance that also sets the other template. This is why. And Rachel Maddow actually I didn't agree with it, but actually had a good segment on last night from a guy who's at the CDC, is not a friend of President Trump. In fact, he said, hey, the solution for COVID is in November, right? However, he did mention the fact he's the first guy that I think got into the Jason Miller world, bifurcated the 19-page that really didn't say anything. And he said it was kind of a disgrace to the CDC to have like the schools and it was all happy-clappy. He didn't understand it. But then he said, on the other hand, you go to the deeper 60-page one, he says you have to be essentially a trial lawyer to understand it. That's where the CDC, and this is my problem with the CDC institutionally, were they trying to do it in that regard to back this up, or what exactly is the message we're trying to get across? This is, and we've told people, you're not going to have a fully functioning America hitting it until we sort out this problem on the liabilities.
Look, the message should be just very clearly from the CDC. We want to help you open up rapidly, safely, smartly. That should be their message, and that's very simple. We're going to talk a lot more about this later in the show and the frustrations that President Trump and the White House have had with even be able to get phone calls returned from the CDC. Hello, folks, we're coming for you, administrative state. But the fact is, it might be 60 pages of recommendations with 60,000 hyperlinks. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure novel gone wrong. I mean, you just keep going burrowing down, and here's a 2017 study. It really what it is we like to help you reopen, but we really want to make sure that we don't get sued and want to make sure we don't upset our liberal friends or any of the trial lawyers who are out there. So take a look at this, maybe kind of sort of if you're possibly interested. That's a terrible message for the CDC to be sending out.
One of the things that David points out, though, that I think is very important, it shows you the limitations of the CDC's ability to define what's going to happen. Statutorily, all these laws that regulate insurance liability are all at the state level.
Yes.
Every state has its own insurance commissioner, et cetera, et cetera. It's one of the reasons we had so many problems with Obamacare. But it seems to me that we're going to have to go and drill down on these states, and there's a big opportunity for the red states to come out looking like they know how to run a place.
Well, that's absolutely true. But at the federal level, you're going to need to – this is where President Trump is obviously going to get engaged, and this is where he's going to shine because he is a master deal maker. You look at the deal in China, and this – requires a level of sophistication he's got that, quite frankly, Schumer and Nancy Pelosi don't have. This is going to be enormously complicated, okay? And you got to get into it now because it's about the time, right? I think we have to have, and I realize there were some of the Republicans say we can wait till June. If you're not in the room hammering this stuff out, and I don't know why the Senate's taking a break on this Memorial Day. I think this is outrageous. First off, the city's virtually shut down. The city technically is shut down. The only thing we see going on around here is the war room pandemic, but there's virtually no street traffic. It is outrageous that the Senate would be going home when you've got to be in the room going through this right now. I mean, quite frankly, when you read this article is not the easiest article to get through. Right? If you don't have a law degree, but every entrepreneur will understand it because you're going to see my house. They're going to be taking my house. Okay. The CDC. I want to go back to the administrative state. We got to take a short break here and come back with Kevin Freeman on another win for the movement against China in a moment on economic warfare. But you see where. You get to see the aspect that, hey, I can start to open my business if something like this takes place. Otherwise, I'm going to get absolutely crushed. That's why the David Rivkin thing is so important. Okay, hashtag war on pandemic. I want to hear all your voices in here today. Realize this was been like kind of going back to college, but it's necessary. You need to do it. We're connecting dots. We're going to talk about CDC next.
Pain, swelling, stiffness. When your hands hurt, you can't function. Until now. Introducing the new Copperfit compression gloves with Sure Grip technology to give you more power, more control, and more agility than ever. Our most advanced copper-infused compression fabric woven into an ultra-lightweight performance glove that fits like a second skin to support relief and recovery of sore muscles and painful joint stiffness. And new Sure Grip bands built in to provide a strong, non-slip grip for more power and control.
You need total control of your hands when you're doing anything with construction. Your hands are your livelihood. The Copperfit gloves are great. The grip is outstanding here with these different ribs. It makes my hand a lot more usable. It just feels like you're just ready to start the job.
The gloves have been a game changer for me. They help with flexibility and pain and soreness. They allow me to do my job even better.
Breathable wicking fabric with an open finger design for full range of motion, feel, and control.
They relieve my pain. When I grab something, I'm not in pain. The support or whatever magic these things do, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter to me what it is. It works.
I get a lot of pain, and it can make it difficult to do the smallest thing. While I'm wearing this, I do not have any pain. I can use it on the keyboard. I can use my phone. I drive with it. I sleep with it. I love this glove.
The new Copperfit compression gloves with Sure Grip technology. Relief from painful muscle and joint soreness. Guaranteed or your money back. Call 1-800-984-5571 or on the web at getcopperfitgloves.com for only $19.99. Order right now and your shipping is free.
I tried it. I use it. I know it works.
Copperfit gloves definitely just make my life better.
I've used Copperfit before. This has helped my hands so much. These things work.
Feel better with copper-infused compression. Ask for it by name. Copperfit Compression Gloves.
At Leaf Filter, we're on a never-ending journey to end gutter cleaning forever. Whoa! Way too dangerous, Bill. Say goodbye to that ladder. Way too clogged, Melissa. Those black gutters are causing serious damage to your home. Look at these cracks in your foundation. Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system, will keep you safe and protect your home. Leaf Filter's stainless micromesh screen fits over your existing gutters and is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water. No more leaves or debris in your gutters for the life of your home. Schedule your free gutter inspection and estimate, just like Paul. With Leaf Filter's lifetime warranty, we guarantee you'll never have to clean those nasty gutters again. Everybody okay with that? I should. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Act now and save 15% off your purchase.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Live from War Room Pandemic on Capitol Hill. We're now going to go live to the economic war room and a real fighter, Kevin Freeman. This guy is in the grill of the Chinese Communist Party every day of the week. This is what he's made his reputation on. One of the most brilliant guys around Wall Street. Kevin, we're getting victory after victory after victory. There's been a sea change around here. And I think, Jason, don't we have a clip from Senator Hawley? Let's play this clip to tee you up.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 second. Sorry.
That's okay. Our production guy was reading his Twitter feed.
I had a great show, too.
I think that China is a diversion from the challenges that the United States faces, then you're not living in reality. You need to come back to planet Earth. China is the single greatest national security threat to this country in the 21st century. More than that, Martha, they're the single greatest economic threat. We've been losing jobs to China for years. We've been losing manufacturing to China for years, and now they're building up their military even as they unleash this pandemic on the world. We've got to change our relationship with China, and the time to do it is right now.
Write this young man's name down. Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of Missouri. He is woke. I'm telling you, he is on fire, and he is in the grill of the Chinese Communist Party relentlessly. He's in back a lot of this legislation that's coming out about stripping their sovereign immunity and letting citizens, American citizens, go after him. And Rivkin's going to get back in this. Rivkin's got another big piece that is going to come up somewhere in the next week. David Rivkin's tearing this apart, too, and that's one of the top constitutional lawyers in the country. Kevin Freeman, draft off of Hawley. Tell us about the victory we had last night.
Well, there was 100-0 unanimous vote in the Senate to hold Chinese companies accountable to the same accounting rules and everything else that we require of American companies and really companies anywhere in the world. The Senate is woke now. 100-0 unanimous vote that says that we will hold them accountable. They will not be able to stay in our markets if they don't conform to our accounting principles, or if they can't prove that they're not puppets of the Communist Party of China.
There's been two 100-0 votes in the last 8 months. One was on Hong Kong, what the Senate was 100-0. About supporting the protests in Hong Kong. And then last night, and this was a co-sponsored bill. This had Democrats and Republicans were both the sponsors of this. Where do you think this goes in the House? You know, we used to have Nancy Pelosi used to be a fire breather on China. She got into politics because of Tiananmen Square. She was all for the democracy movement. She basically, on this China commission that every year publishes this amazing document that nobody reads, her staff, her former chief of staff, Bradshaw, was on it. I think she's still on it. Nancy Pelosi was at cutting edge. Now, Kevin McCarthy comes out with this brilliant idea, Kevin, that I know you were one of the thinkers in back of, to have a joint select committee in the House that every committee is tying together what they're going after the CCP for in a legislative kind of tsunami to go after these guys. She backs out at the last second. What is going to happen with this bill that holds Chinese companies accountable and makes a level playing field with American entrepreneurs? 100-0 in the Senate. What do you believe, sir, that the House is going to do with this?
Well, Nancy Pelosi, the speaker, is in a tight spot because, as you pointed out, who wants to vote in favor of China these days in the Congress. Everybody knows what damage they've caused with the CCP virus. Everybody knows that they've been at economic war with us for years. That's been our challenge, was to make that aware. Now everybody's aware. How do you, if you vote on this, how do you vote against this? And the idea is that all we're doing is requiring them to follow our laws. Again, this is something that it would be almost impossible to vote against. That's why it was unanimous in the Senate. If it gets brought for a vote, I think it has to pass, and certainly the president. Now we just got to worry about the specific provisions of how long we give the Chinese companies to respond and conform.
This does have a 3-year provision in it. That needs to be changed. It's got to be they got to be put on notice in like 6 months. Yeah, I think it's 3 years all the way. If you look in the details of the legislation, I think it gets down to 3 years.
Let me ask you a question. So there's a great write-up, I think is either in the Journal or maybe even CNN this morning. They're talking about how the back channels to the Chinese are now shutting down. The typical, let's just take a Steve Schwartzman, for example, going right to the Wang Qishans or right to the Liu Hus or people like that, or some of the different execs who, have kind of their own investment interests to go and get around. What kind of talks do you think are actually happening behind the scenes right now to try to stop this effort or to try to undo it so these dollars can't keep flowing to China?
Well, China is radioactive. This is not something you want to be behind or connected to. I think Larry Fink is going to be called on the griddle for this today at his shareholders meeting. The idea is that you cannot be a supporter of China and also be a supporter of the United States of America, because right now it's mutually exclusive. I've got this book. Steve, you talk about it all the time, this book on restricted warfare. In the introduction, it says financial warfare in which a country is subjugated without a drop of blood being spilled means entering and subverting banking and stock markets and manipulating the value of a currency. They've entered our stock markets. We've caught them. Now we're going to remove them. I don't think the back channels have a chance at this. They would have to put this away very quietly, and we're not going to let them put it away quietly. We're going to be very loud on this.
Kevin, how do people get access? What's your Twitter feed? How do they get access to Economic War Room?
EconomicWarRoom.com. You can find our Facebook, Twitter. You can get access to all our battle plans, back shows that we've done. We're on Blaze TV, but EconomicWarRoom.com is the main portal.
With the guys, Glenn Beck over there, Blaze TV, doing a great job. Kevin Freeman. We're going to next week. We're going to go through the battle plan. He's published, I think, a 40 or 50 page battle plan. Kevin Freeman is in their grill. One of the reasons there's no back channels, guys are being outed. Kevin, thank you very much for being on the show. Part of the Committee on the Present Danger. By the way, Justin Dannenhoff, we're having him on. We're supposed to have him on this hour. We were so backed up. He's going to be on next hour. He's a shareholder. He was at the BlackRock meeting online, and he's got 10 questions for Larry Fink to say, hey, brother, I want to go through exactly what your ownership of Chinese companies. Here's why the back channels of Wall Street Journal, because of shows like this and others. Now guys are getting called out by name, and they need to be called out by name. Donald Trump, the pressure on Donald J. Trump is enormous. If you think the one fight he's got with is with the Chinese Communist Party, he's got to fight with all the corporatists. He's got to fight with the party of Davos. He's got to fight with all the Wall Street and City of London guys. It's relentless, and only by calling them out by name. Ladies and gentlemen, because of you, the deplorables, these victories in the capital markets, and remember, the capital markets are the centerpiece right now of the economic war that's being run on us by the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, next hour, we're going to stay with this topic. We've got Trish, the one and only Trish Reagan. I think it's her first TV appearance since she left Fox Business. I think it is. Well, if not, we're saying it is, okay?
Deal with it.
And deal with it. And we're going to get back. We're going to talk about Karen Brzezinski and her running fight with Joe. Give her a hug.
What about Chad?
Chad, stop bleeding all over the rugs at Mar-a-Lago, okay? Stop bleeding all over the rugs at Mar-a-Lago, okay? Trish Reagan next on War Room Pandemic.
Tired of struggling with regular mirrors that don't adjust so you can't get close enough? Need both hands but you don't have a stand? Can't move in the right direction to see your own reflection? You need Flexible Mirror, the bendable, light-up magnification mirror that comes to you. Watch. Just stick it on and turn the base. The super suction locking mechanism means you can put it on any smooth surfaced place, horizontal or vertical. Lock it onto any mirror, table, or desk. Use it in the shower, even on a window. The secret is Flexible Mirror's